Hello friends, good afternoon and welcome to the EduSite Network. Our topic of discussion today is Indian economy and overview. So, for this discussion we have thus in our studio Dr. Bharat Singh, Associate Professor, Department of Economics, Satyavati College, University of Delhi. He has a teaching experience of more than 24 years and his specialization is the area of Indian economy. And with this introduction, I would like to welcome sir. Thank you sir for coming.
Thank you, Urvashi, for giving me this chance of delivering the lecture on Indian economy. Before we go into the details of the Indian economy and its different aspects, it would be prudent on our part to first of all throw some light over the nature of the Indian economy. And once we understand the true nature of Indian economy, only then it will be better for us to understand and deliberate upon different aspects of the Indian economy. The nature of Indian economy is largely perceived to be underdeveloped one, and this is so surprisingly even after 67 years of independence and accomplishment of 64 years of the process of planned economic development. The belief that India is an underdeveloped economy may be contrasted on several counts. However, before the onset of the new policy regime, that is the economic reforms as initiated during the period of 1991, it is particularly true that India can be categorized as an underdeveloped economy. The new policy regime which was initiated during the year 1991 briefly refers to or can be expressed through an acronym, the LPG. LPG means liberalization of different rules and regulations related to trade and industry, then privatization of the public sector undertakings, and globalization of the Indian economy with the rest of the world. So, only after this onset or this initiation of the process of economic reforms through LPG, the belief that India is an underdeveloped economy to some extent has been diluted. However, it would be suitable on our part to throw some general features throw some light on the general features of the Indian economy. The first important feature of the Indian economy is the predominance of agriculture sector in its economy. When we speak of the predominance of agriculture in Indian economy, it is mainly in terms of the contribution to the GDP and contribution to the employment. The contribution of agriculture sector in India's GDP is about 14%, and about 50% of the total employment is generated in this sector. So, this shows that the agriculture still plays a very important role in Indian economy, as I told you earlier, even after 67 years of independence and 64 years of the process of planned economic development. The second important feature of Indian economy is low level of national income and per capita income. The national income of India, although it has grown substantially and also the per capita income has increased, even then it is low when we compare it with several developed countries of the world. And it is a matter of solace that the per capita income of India has increased to $1,000 per annum. And as a result of this, now India is ranked among the low middle income groups of the low middle income group countries of the world. The third important feature of Indian economy is the large number of people living below poverty line. The poverty line is defined as a minimum level of nutrition which a person must get on daily basis, and this intake of nutrition in form of calorie is different from the rural areas and the urban areas. On this criteria, 21.9% of the population still live below poverty line as per the economic survey of 2011 and 12. This demarcation of poverty line has of late been a matter of serious debate among the policy makers, among the economists, and among the social and political activists. However, we will not go into that much detail. The next important feature of the Indian economy is existence of various forms of unemployment. You may come across, say, open unemployment, structural unemployment, chronic unemployment, seasonal and cyclical unemployment, educated unemployment. You may come across an important you can say distinguishing feature of unemployment in Indian economy, that is disguised unemployment, particularly in the agriculture sector. Overall, India has an unemployment rate of about 2% based on usual principal and subsidy status basis. The third is the existence of the wide inequality of income and wealth, and this inequality of income and wealth can be measured through the Lorenz curve and Gini coefficient. Besides the above you can say features of Indian economy, there are various forms of social rigidities, like too much attachment with the caste, creed, religion, etc., etc. And this excessive attachment or existence of the social rigidities directly or indirectly hampers the process of economic growth and development in a country like India. Further, this economy also suffers from rampant corruption in various economic and social and political fields of our daily life. Next important, very important feature of Indian economy is the low quality of human life, which is reflected through the Human Development Index. It is a composite index taking into consideration different parameters, say literacy and education, the health, the availability of nutritious diet to the people, safe drinking water to common people, then their longevity, all these things combined together, we see that this index is lower in case of India, and one estimate by UN Human Development states that this HDI for India is 0.554, and if we rank all the countries of the world on the basis of HDI, the rank of India has slipped down from 136 to 134 instead of improving as per the data of 2012. So, after discussing the important features, all these important features of the Indian economy, we must have been able to grasp to a large extent what is the characteristic, what are the characteristics, what are the features of the Indian economy in general. Although these features, these characteristics can be discussed at great length, but today the time is not appropriate to discuss these things. In the light of these characteristics of Indian economy, now it is prudent on our part to see and examine what is happening on the development front of the Indian economy. After the initiation of the new policy regime in July 1991, the perception of Indian economy has undergone significant changes. Perception of the world about the Indian economy, and due to this implementation of the new economic policy, the Indian economy has been exposed to the global scenario and giving rise to competitions both domestically as well as globally. This emergence of competition on both the fronts has posed before the Indian economy several challenges and several opportunities also at the macroeconomic fronts. However, the growth story of Indian economy after the year 1991 has been well known, and it is quite convincing in nature. Now we would like to discuss some important indicators related to growth. First of all, it is a fact that India's GDP has increased by about 6% on a long term basis during the last 2 decades. It has witnessed its best time during the year 2003 to 8, so far as its growth is concerned, when the annual average growth rate stood at about 8.5% during the said period. This is substantially a good rate of economic growth as compared to many developed countries of the world at that time also. Its gross domestic investment as a percentage of GDP was 33.6%, inflation rate was 4.5% per year, then current account deficit was 0.4%, and combined fiscal deficit was 6.7% of the GDP. This combined fiscal deficit of 6.7% is of course a cause of worry. However, the rate of inflation, the current account deficit, the investment rate, and the overall GDP growth has been quite satisfactory and comfortable, and we can say that it is commendable also when we compare with the achievements of the other nations of the world. Further, so far as other indicators are concerned, India is now ranked among the fastest growing economies of the world since the last decade. India became the 3rd largest economy of the world after US and China, overtaking Japan in terms of PPP. PPP means purchasing power parity. This is the report, according to a report by the World Bank in 2011. In 2005, the overall rank of Indian economy was 10th, and it is a matter of commendation that India has upgraded its position from 10th position to 3rd position just within a year of say 5 to 6 years. When India has achieved this distinction of being the 3rd largest economy of this world, then what is its contribution in the total GDP of the world? Its contribution is 6.4% of the total GDP of the world on PPP basis, that is purchasing power parity. United States of America still holds the topmost position by contributing 17.1% of the global GDP, followed by China, which contributes about 14.9% of the global GDP. After globalization, the process of liberalization, privatization and globalization, the Indian economy has been closely associated with the world economy, which has resulted into the rising share of trade and capital flows. After liberalization of trade and industries, this international trade the volume of international trade has substantially increased, and we have seen a substantial inflow of capital both in forms of FDI as well as FII. And there is due to if the volume of trade increases and there is a huge inflow of foreign investment, it automatically creates a kind of a strong confidence both in the minds of the domestic investors and producers as well as the global producers and investors. Before this topic of growth indicators, when I was discussing the important features of the Indian economy, I had just mentioned that the per capita income of Indian people in dollar terms has increased up to 1,000 per annum, and as a result the Indian economy has graduated to low income people, low income country to low middle income status as per the international comparisons. This achievement on different macroeconomic fronts has seen a downslide also, particularly after the financial year 2010-11. During 3 successive years between 2005-6 to 2007-8, India achieved an annualized growth rate of over 9%. Global financial crisis during 2008-9 also did not deter the Indian economy to move on the path of economic development at a faster rate, and this global crisis, the Indian economy moved out swiftly out of this global crisis and posted a growth rate of about 8%. You can say above 8%. This 2012-13 and 13-14, that is previous 2 years consecutively, has been quite challenging for the Indian economy, because these 2 years have seen a sub 5% growth rate. That is, the growth rate slipped to below 5%, sometimes 4.5%, 4.7%, 4.6%, and so on. This kind of the situation on the front of economic growth was witnessed after 25 years of this planned economic development, and this situation of sub 5% growth rate was witnessed successively for 2 years during the year 1986-87 and 87-88. This is really a cause of concern that for the last 2 consecutive years we have not been able to surpass even the 5% rate of growth, and this is a cause of worry for the government, the policy makers, the planners, the economists, and all of us, of course. Now, we must see as to what are the important reasons, what are the causes for this slowdown in the Indian economy, resulting into sub 5% growth rate for the last 2 successive years, that is 2012-13 and 13-14. Number one reason is the persistent uncertainty in the global outlook caused by the crisis in the euro zone and general slowdown in the global economy. You know, when an economy is globalized, it cannot be, it cannot remain protected, it cannot remain, you can say, untouched by what is happening in the global economy. So, when there is slowdown in the global economy, its impact is likely to fall on the Indian economy also. So, this slowdown in the Indian economy has been an important reason for the slowdown in the Indian economy also. There are certain structural constraints and problems on the domestic fronts also, which have resulted into this slowdown of the Indian economy. There, the other reason is the inflationary pressures, and the inflation has seen the double digit growth for the last several years, particularly on the food inflation front. We have seen more than 12% rate of inflation for the last 5 years. Another reason is slowdown in manufacturing. Between the year 2014 to 12 to 13, the manufacturing sector has grown just by 0.2%, and manufacturing is such a sector which is known to generate a huge number of employment opportunities, particularly the decent jobs are created in manufacturing sector, of course, followed by the services sector also. So, this slowdown in manufacturing sector has overall impacted the you can say resulted into the occurrence of sub 5% growth in the Indian economy. A combination of all these factors that were discussed above resulted in a protracted slowdown, and this slowdown is broadly in sync with trends in other emerging economy, but the impacts in case of Indian economy are deeper than many other foreign countries which have witnessed this slowdown. On inflation front, the inflation has also posed a big challenge for the growth of the Indian economy. The due to high inflation, the capacity to save of the Indian people diminishes. It also negatively affects the aggregate demand. If the aggregate demand is low, the investors or the manufacturers reduce their level of production. If the production level is cut down, it has an important bearing, negative bearing on the generation of employment and other activities also. On inflation front, the wholesale price index, although it declined from 8.9% during the year 2011-12 and 7.4% during the year 2012-13 to 6% in 2013-14, but it is still above the comfort level. The wholesale price index for the food article is more worrisome, more problematic, wherein it has registered a 12.2% rate of growth for the last 5 years. On external sector has witnessed a remarkable turnaround after the first quarter of 2013 and 14, and the year ended with a current account deficit of just 1.7% of GDP as against 4.7% in 2012 and 13. This improvement in current account deficit can be seen to be remarkable. If the current account deficit has improved, it had its bearing on the value of rupee vis-a-vis other foreign currencies. There was a time on the 28th of August 2013 when the value of rupee plummeted to 68.36 to a dollar, US dollar. But afterwards, a substantial strength has been gained by the rupee, and nowadays the value of rupee is hovering around 62 per US dollar. Although during the past month, the value of past a couple of months, the value of rupee appreciated to around say rupees 61 per US dollar. All these combined together on external front has resulted into this shooting up of the foreign exchange reserve, and our foreign exchange reserve has touched a peak of around 315 billion US dollar. fiscal deficit. The fiscal deficit declined from 5.7% of GDP in 2011-12 to 4.9% in 2012-13 and 4.5% in 2013-14. So, there is a decline, we can see a decline in the fiscal deficit also. Much of the improvement on fiscal front has been achieved by reduction in public expenditure rather than by increased revenue. There is a cause of concern here, because if the fiscal deficit is increased by generating more revenue, it is likely to generate more demand for different goods and services, and a general feeling about the good things happening in the economy may be felt by the manufacturers, the producers, the service providers. But in case of India, this improvement in fiscal deficit has been achieved by reducing the public expenditure. Taking together all these things, the improvement on the front of fiscal deficit and the current account deficit can be seen to be a positive sign for macroeconomic stabilization purposes. After discussing these different aggregates, different macroeconomic variables in case of Indian economy for say a decade or so, it would be interesting to look at the quarterly figures of figures related to macroeconomic variables quarter 1 and quarter 2. If we want to gauge about the likely growth rate to be achieved during the financial year 2014 and 15, because these two quarterly results, I am going to discuss the two quarterly results Q1, Q2, April to June and July to September. This will give us a feeling about, give us an estimate about the likely growth rate of for the year 2014 and 15. During the first quarter of the financial year 2014 and 15, India's GDP grew at a rate of 5.7% in the first quarter, which really exceeded our expectations. This was the fastest pace since the fourth quarter of the financial year 2012, while being dramatically up from the 4.6% rise recorded in the preceding quarter. The manufacturing sector expanded after a gap of 2 quarters, recording a 3.5% growth. The manufacturing, which had contracted for the first time since 1991-92 last year, when it declined to 0.7%, has been a key focus area of new government that sees its revival as being crucial to generating more jobs. In the earlier part of my lecture also, I had mentioned that the role of manufacturing sector is very crucial in the generation of both the employment and the output, because if one sector of one activity in the manufacturing sector is boosted, it has both its backward and forward linkages, generating more jobs for the people of our country. Industry as a whole, which includes mining, construction and manufacturing, grew by 4.2% as against 0.4% decline in the first quarter of the last fiscal year. The agriculture sector, which contributes about 14% of overall GDP, put up a reasonable show despite deficient rainfall, growing by 3.8% against 4% in the year earlier. Now, we discuss the mention about the Q2 results of the financial year 2014 and 15. Indian economy grew at a rate of 5.3% in July-September quarter, as against 5.7% in the previous year. So, this quarter 2 has seen marginally lower rate of growth as compared to quarter 1. The index of mining, manufacturing and electricity registered growth rates of 1.3%, 0.1% and 9.4% respectively. Growth in agriculture and allied sector has been estimated to be 3.2%. For industry, it was 2.2%, and for services sector, it was 7.1%. So, after looking at the Q2 results related to the performance of agriculture, industry and services sector, we can say that the performance of all the 3 sectors are below expectation, and this pessimism is particularly true in case of the industrial sector. The slowdown in the industrial sector is a cause of concern for all of us. The agriculture sector has can be said to be registering a moderate rate of growth, but it would have been better if the agriculture sector registers a growth of around 4%, witnessing a substantial improvement in its level of production and productivity. The services sector growth can be said to be satisfactory, registering more than 7% of the growth in Q2. The economic activities which registered significant growth in Q2 of 2014-15 over Q2 of 2013-14 are electricity, gas and water supply, and these sectors overall have registered a growth rate of 8.7%. The construction registered a growth rate of 4.6%, the community, social and personal services at 9.6%, and financing, insurance, real estate and business services at 9.5%. So, after looking at the aggregates and macroeconomic results for the last 2 quarters, it appears that I am afraid rather that are we again moving towards this slowdown, because the Q1 result was encouraging, but the Q2 result has shown a slackness. And if this trend continues, it would be very difficult for us to achieve a growth rate of 6 to 7% for the financial year 2014 and 15. Now, after analyzing the macroeconomic variables for the last 2 quarters and the 2 financial years in succession, 2012-13 and 13-14, it would be interesting to see and examine as to what factors are responsible for it and what steps are needed to ameliorate these situations so as to move the Indian economy on the path of faster economic growth. Besides the global factors, it would be better for us if we focus on our domestic economy front. There are certain domestic structural constraints which are creating a barrier for the Indian economy to move to grow faster. The improvements in twin deficits, that is fiscal deficit and current account deficit, associated with the easing of inflationary pressure and a significant rate of fixed investment at around 30%, we can expect these positive factors to feed into higher growth in the year 2014-15. However, the pace of recovery means recovery from the past 2 consecutive years. The pace of recovery may be slow and gradual, and this recovery is also subject to meeting several constraints, fulfilling several facing several constraints, meeting several challenges, and that too successfully at the domestic front. What are those constraints that we must face, and face it boldly and meet them and surpass them? The first important constraint or challenge that must be surmounted is the difficulties in taking quick decisions on project proposals which have affected the ease of doing the businesses. The delay in decision making process has resulted in considerable project delay and insufficient complementary investment, because if one project is delayed, say road project or say port, if the project is delayed in its clearance, then other avenues of investment which may be taken by, associated with those projects are also slowed down, they are also hampered. So, these things related to the delay in decision making is a big hindrance in the way of faster economic development of our country. Next is the problem of subsidy. In India, most of the subsidies are ill targeted and unnecessary. They are just creating a burden, fiscal burden on the health of the economy, and it results into squeezed space for other public investment programs and a kind of, we can say, distortion in the resource allocation. Next important constraint is the low manufacturing base in India, especially of capital goods, and low value addition in the manufacturing sector, may be due to the lower level of labor productivity, use of the not so up to date and advanced methods of production, technology, etc. The manufacturing growth and exports could be facilitated with simplified procedures, easy credit, and reduced transaction cost. Some relief must also be granted from the high interest regime to the investors and producers. Further, the presence of large informal sector and inadequate absorption of labor in the formal sector is also creating a problem. This presence of informal sector and this slow growth of job opportunities in the formal sector may be due to skill mismatch. Skill mismatch is an important problem for the Indian industry, because the kind of skill that the Indian industries, Indian producers they require is very much lacking, that what we produce through our educational institutes, the training institutes, and different professional bodies. So, what are needed? The need is to integrate the requirement of the industries and the level and the kind of education and training being imparted by our universities, our technical institutes, and our professional bodies. The sustenance of high economic growth is very difficult without robust agricultural growth, because there is, we all know that there is a strong backward and forward linkage between the agriculture sector and the industrial sector. If the agricultural sector does not grow, or if the productivity level in agriculture sector is low, it is a big drag on the industrial sector also, because if the income in the agriculture sector will grow, rise, it will generate demand for different goods to be produced in the industrial sector, and thereby increasing the aggregate demand of the economy, and which will give a further fillip to the producers and manufacturing in the industrial sector. So, low agricultural production and productivity is can also be said to be a major reason for the the slowdown in the industrial sector. The problem of inflation, particularly the high food inflation, need to be tackled effectively, and the issues related to presence of large number of market intermediaries need to be addressed. The existence of the market intermediaries, existence of large number of market intermediaries unnecessarily increases the price of the agricultural produce, and there is a huge gap between the price that the farmers receive and the price that the consumers pay. This is mainly because of the existence of large number of intermediaries which who adopt different measures to exploit the farmers, charging huge commissions. Then the lack of storage facilities, particularly for the perishable goods, and this lack of transportation facilities. These things are creating a big problem for the Indian agriculture sector, which needs to be addressed on an urgent basis. Improvements in infrastructural facilities like roads, bridges, ports and railways are urgently needed for the smooth transportation and communication. Enhancing the output in mining and power sector is very crucial for supporting rest of the sectors of the economy. It is often said that the output of mining sector is an indication, is a signal as to what is going to happen in the industrial sector, particularly the manufacturing sector. If the manufacturing sector is going through a slowdown, it means that the demand for different minerals in the industrial sector is also low. And if the demand for different minerals in the industrial sector is low, it is obvious that it will have a dragging effect on the industrial sector, and its output is going to be slow. The same is true with the power sector also. The industrial sector need electricity and other forms of energy, and if the production of this important source of energy is slow, it means the industrial sector is also going to suffer a lot. So, we must pay adequate attention in increasing the mining and power sector. For this, the important regulatory reforms are needed, particularly in case of India. Adequate attention is also needed for expanding and improving the education and training facilities in the economy, so that the problem of a skill mismatch may be addressed effectively. Just now I mentioned that the industrial sector are unable to generate enough jobs for the Indian people, mainly because of the skill mismatch. So, if our universities, the training institutes and professional bodies create such a pool of manpower whose qualification, whose capabilities, whose level of training is commensurate with the demands, the requirements of the industrial sector, then I think it will be a great boost for the generation of employment sector, particularly in the industrial and the services sector. Now, I would like to throw some light briefly on the sectoral growth trends. The agriculture and allied activities have registered 4.7% growth during the year 2013-14, mainly due to the favorable monsoon, as against the average of around 3% during the year 1999, 2002, 2012 and 13. The slowdown in the mining and quarrying witnessed negative growth for the last 2 consecutive years. Mining products, especially coal and petroleum, are universal intermediates, and any slackness or reduction in their production would result into the slowdown of the whole economy, particularly the industrial sector. Manufacturing has also been quite disappointing, particularly since the last 2 years, as we have just now discussed, and the average growth rate has been just 0.2% for this sector. The decline in manufacturing sector has been broad based, and it includes the basic and capital goods and consumer durables. There is solace only on the front of intermediate goods and consumer non-durables, which have registered a higher growth in the year 2013-14 as compared to 2012 and 13. The construction sector, which is a major source of employment, also lost its momentum during the period, and all these signs of the slowdown, all these indicators of the slowdown show that there is the sentiment of the business activities is subdued to a great extent. The services sector has also seen slowdown owing to slackness in the commodity producing sector, because if the industrial sector are not growing fast, agriculture sector is not growing fast, how can the demand for the services will increase. So, once there is slowdown, there is slump in the industrial sector, particularly manufacturing sector, it is likely to have its negative impact on the services sector. In later periods, some investment improvement was witnessed in the business services and banking activity due to moderate revival in the global economy. Several factors are responsible for this slowdown, and for this a comprehensive set of measures are needed to be taken both at the formulation and implementation level. The important measures that we have just discussed must be taken by our government, and we hope that the new government is going in right direction by paying a special attention to the mining sector, to the power sector, and to the industrial sector as a whole.
Right. Thank you so much for this very valuable, informative and a very lucid presentation at that. And so, since we have some minutes left, we could have a small discussion. I could put forward some doubts in front of you. Sir, during the slides that you showed, you used a term LPG. You mentioned era of LPG. Could you, sir, throw a bit of light on that?
LPG means it is, I told you that it is a kind of acronym. LPG, L stands for liberalization, P for privatization, and G for globalization. When we speak of liberalization, liberalization of what? See, in the old policy regime, when the strategy of economic development as adopted by the Indian planners before 1991 was that the Indian economy should grow, but it should grow under the control and command of the public sector undertakings, and the private sector was allowed only to play a limited role. So, before 1991, we had a commanding height for the public sector undertakings, and the Indian industry was shackled between different rules and regulations. So, what we needed or what we did in the new economic policy in 1991, that we tried to liberalize several of those rules and regulations which were creating a barrier to the growth of industry, particularly with regard to the you can say capacity expansion. The industries wanted to produce more, but they did not get the permission to expand their capacity very easily. So, this kind of liberalization of rules and regulation was adopted during the year 1991. When we speak of the privatization, privatization means reducing the share of government in the public sector undertakings to about 50%. If we reduce the share less than 50%, the management control will go into the private hands. But if you if the government holds the control of a particular PSU more than 50%, it is said to be disinvestment. In both the cases, the public sector undertakings will have to face the competition with the other industries in the domestic economy as well as the global economy. And we all of us know that the competition improves efficiency and productivity. So, this was the purpose of introducing the policy of privatization to increase productivity and efficiency in the overall economy of our country.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for explaining. I hope I haven't cut you short.
No, just a minute more. Globalization means integrating the whole Indian economy to the rest of the world.
Right, sir.
And this will facilitate free flow of capital and knowledge and technology. Right. Which is also beneficial for the Indian
economy. Absolutely, sir. Sir, very briefly, could you give us a few reasons for the slowdown of the Indian economy in the last couple of years? Just very briefly, sir.
The most important reason has been the delay in the project clearances, and though the delay in the project clearances, particularly with regard to different infrastructure projects. And if the infrastructure projects are delayed in an economy, it will have a negative bearing on the entire economy and particularly the industrial sector as a whole.
Right, right. Thank you, sir. And of course, I would like to tell our viewers that tomorrow we shall be back with sir and his lecture on Indian economy. So, stay tuned in for that. And with this, we would like to thank sir for being here. So, we sincerely thank you, sir. It's really nice of you to be here and associated with us. So, thank you, viewers. Thank you for watching. Have a great day ahead.